Look what I found in the neighbor's trash. Yep, I'm Diane with South House Designs, and I went trash diving and found this chair with these gorgeous legs. But now we're not going to use these legs. We're going to take this apart and do something completely different with it. And I'll save the legs for another project, but I'm super excited. Come along, let's get started.
Excuse me, I have an idea. Let me call Cindy.
Ooh, that's my phone. Let me see who it is.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, Diane.
I hope you're having a great day and would be up for a fun challenge.
Tell me about it.
Oh, good. Well, knowing you, I'm guessing you have an old chair or three hanging out in your workshop.
I have a few. Okay.
How about if we each upcycle a vintage forlorn chair into something completely different without showing each other our projects?
Oh, you know I love vintage farmhouse stuff. I mean, that is just my thing.
And I love a good upcycle, but in a more modern style.
This sounds like so much fun. I'm in.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
And I cannot wait to get started.
See you in a bit. Can't wait to see what we come up with.
All right, I'll see
So
you.
the first order of business is to take this chair apart. And I'm praying that there's not a whole lot of glue and that it's really these stretchers that are holding it together. So let's see what these look like. Yes, you guessed it, loads of glue. So we're on to plan B. Okay, so now we have just the back of the chair left, and I want to remove the centerpiece. So I'm just going to keep this part as my frame. So we're moving this, and this feels loose up here. This might be glued in, and we may have to cut it down here. But for now, we're going to just cut it across the middle and to be able to pull that out. Let's see what, yay. And let's see about, and it came out too. So look at this. That was really easy. So now what are we gonna do to fill this? I've got the answer. Bondo. I'm in the fan club. It is stinky. You need to mix it in ventilation and even then wear a respirator. But it is lightweight, grabs a hold, and dries quickly, and it's easy to sand smooth. Needless to say, it is not suitable for staining projects, but it worked here because I used a black wash. It started raining, so I had to move inside to sand off the Bondo and smooth down my surface. So I'm wearing my respirator just to make sure. I don't know that I need to at this stage, but I did start smelling that Bondo smell as I was beginning to sand, and I thought, you know, it's better safe than sorry, so I encourage you to do the same. So we have the back of our chair ready to go, and what this is going to be is this is a frame that's going to support a decorative shelf to hang on the wall. And I wanted that shelf, I kind of envisioned it to be a semicircle of some variety. And I had this piece of scrap wood, so I've used this, it's just a plastic caterer's tray that I saved for who knows what reason, but this is a good reason to use it. I marked on painter's tape the depth of this piece of wood, so I know that that's the widest I can go. And then I can lay my feet will be like this. This will be the back lined up with these feet. And this shows me how that's going to look. And I think that's going to be a great size for my shelf. It doesn't stick out too far. I can put a plant right here and maybe a piece of artwork up here, and it will be a really nice composition that way. So that's the next step, is to cut out the semicircle out of this piece of wood. I started by tracing with a standard pencil, but once I started cutting, I discovered that regular lead was a mistake. It disappeared in the shadows of the jigsaw. So I redid the cut with a red pencil, and it was such a breeze to follow. I will always use red for cut lines going forward. This made such a difference for me. So yesterday we got the shelf cut. It needs to still be sanded and all, But today we need to we're going to cut the notches with the jigsaw again. I'm going to cut notches in this so that the shelf will wrap around the uprights of the chair back. It's going to sit on this, which is why I didn't bother filling this. The shelf is going to sit on here and wrap around these two legs, so it's very integrated looking, looks very intentional. So now it's time to measure this, mark where it's going to be, measure, and then I'll be jigsawing that out. You may be tempted to trace around the legs of the frame for your cut lines, but that is just not accurate enough. Center your frame, mark the outside of each leg. Now, using a carpenter's square, mark the lines to the length you need and for the width of the frame leg you want to wrap. And that's it. When you need to cut a notch out of a piece of wood, let's say that this is going to be our notch. With a jigsaw, you cut in and then back out on the two sides, in and then back it out. And then you pick one of the sides and you bring an arc over like this. And then that's going to make this piece fall away. And then you're going to come in from this side and you're going to bring another arc, and that will get this piece away. And then you have this one little sliver back here that you just come in and cut it straight across. And that's what we're going to do for this one. So yesterday, everything with the frame and the shelf was completed outside. It's all sanded, everything is ready to go. And now we're ready to do the finishing, the staining and painting. And whenever I start this project, the first thing that comes out is my plastic cloth to go over my work surface. Of course, paper towels and water handy. This is my spritzer bottle. I don't ever try and attempt any painting like this without a spritzer bottle. It's a mister versus a spray bottle, and it makes a huge difference. This is what I'm going to use to top coat the shelf, the General Finishes top coat. And I only have a little bit, so I'm only going to do the shelf, and that's okay. This will not get high traffic. And then, of course, because I'm going to be doing some washes, I need rags to wipe with, and then I need paintbrushes. Yes, I need paintbrushes. Hey, Cindy, do you have a paintbrush you could spare? I'm in a little bit of a bind.
Hey, Diane, did you need a paintbrush? I got one for you right here. Catch.
Oh, great. Thanks, Cindy. Oh, and it's even a Dixie bell. Oh, I can't wait to give this a try. I've heard such great things. Thanks, you're a lifesaver. I want my frame to be the version of Pottery Barn black that's out there everywhere. It makes it very modern looking, fresh and modern. I don't want to paint. I want the black stain, and it's I'm going to show you how to get that with a wash. We're still using paint, but we're doing it with a wash technique to get that look. And I use the back of my wood to experiment. And you can see that in some places, like right here, I tried the black wash directly onto the wood, and it ends up looking like a very dark brown wood, which is not what I was going for. I really wanted the black, more like this side here, where you can see I did a gray wash underneath it, and then actually 2 layers of the black wash on top. The gray wash helped to mitigate this brown gold that was shining through and turning it brown. And then I experimented here with all the different things. Whenever you're going to do something like this on any wood project, I suggest that you use a scrap piece of the wood, or in this case, I use the backside of the frame, because all of these, any stain and wash finishes will change based on the wood, and it's just almost impossible to predict. One oak is not the same as another oak. One pine is not the same as another pine. You need to always test it to really get the color that you're after. The shelf, I wanted to do kind of a bleached wood. So this is another piece of that same wood, a sample cut that I did. And I was really planning on staining, and no matter what I did, I was not happy with how that looked. So I'm going to end up doing a wash again on the front. And once I get the black done, I'll be able to really hone in on exactly what color version I want. The general rule for a paint wash is to start with a 1-to-1 mix. That's equal parts water to paint. Mix it up, try it out, and if you want it thinner or more translucent, just add a bit more water. If you want it thicker or more opaque, just add more paint. It's really that easy. I find it best to keep my washes thin and build up the layers. With the black frame, I did the gray underwash to neutralize that golden brown a bit. Now, watch and you'll see that I really concentrate on wiping it off so that I am exposing the wood grain still. I don't want to lose that wood grain. The Bondo you can't use with stain. You can only use it under paint. And with a wash, it's still going to show. But because I'm using a black wash, I was able to cover it. If you were using a light wash, a white wash, probably not be as successful as this. Where the Bondo was, I dabbled the gray paint on more thickly there, and then kind of didn't really wipe it off because I would be exposing that blue color of the Bondo. I just dabbed at it to dry it and to suck up any extra paint. I really wanted that gray to try and cover that as much as possible. Then once the gray had dried, and it doesn't take long at all, then I did 2 very thin coats of black wash, mixed it a bit more water than paint because the paint sample was so really thick. I brushed it on and then fairly quickly wiped it back off with lint-free cloth. Now onto the shelf. I started with a thin layer of folk art linen toile, then added a thin wash of brownish taupe. That's where we are here. I decided the wood grain was too bold for what I was wanting, but it's an easy fix when you're using a color wash. You'll notice with the light color of the shelf, I built up my color gradually to have lots of subtle variety, but not eliminate the wood grain completely. From here, I added a thin layer of gray, then a layer of a blended gray and brownish taupe version, and then I added a final layer of a very thin white paint wash. With each layer, I brushed it on and wiped it back off and let it dry slightly before adding the next layer. That sounds like it took forever, right? Well, no, not at all. All those layers took maybe an hour and a half total. Once you've wiped it down, it doesn't take long to dry enough to be able to add another layer on top. Keep a misting bottle close at hand. If your paint starts to dry before you've wiped it, just give it a mist and then wipe. If you brush on some that you've realized is too thick or too bold or just too, spritz it and wipe it right off. It's a really fun process and you can get amazing results if you just keep playing with it. Be aware of the wood grain underneath. Are you hiding too much of it, or are you getting such cool results that you really don't mind? There is no right or wrong way. It's just what looks good to your eye and for your home. Now for the top coat. I'm using General Finishes High Performance Top Coat in a flat finish. Although we didn't wait long between paint washes, you do want to let your wood dry out thoroughly before sealing it. So I let mine dry overnight. This is where a really good paintbrush will really pay off. No brush strokes. For a smooth finish, try to just barely overlap your strokes. Don't overwork your finish and use a very light touch. Clear finishes make it hard to see if you've missed a spot. Look closely from multiple sides and make sure there isn't a spot that is dull or matte. That's a spot you missed and you want to get right away before the surrounding finish starts to dry. Here I walked around my table and discovered a spot. If you don't have a bright overhead light, the flashlight function on your phone can be a great solution. Now it's time to assemble our wall shelf. Just a little Titebond 2 wood glue and I placed the shelf on top of that stretcher bar and then used just a couple of clamps to hold it in place nice and tight while that glue set up. And then after it set, I used a brad nailer and put 6 brad nails in, 3 on each side of that opening that we filled with Bondo. I attached 2 D-ring style hangers on the back, and now I have a charming upcycled wall shelf with a clean transitional style that works well with traditional, with boho, with California contemporary, or whatever you may choose to call your style. Now I can't wait to jump over and check out Cindy's chair upcycle. She is all about vintage farmhouse, so let's see just how different our upcycles are. The link to Cindy's post is in the description down below. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and ring that little bell. One less thing for you to remember. Any questions? Don't hesitate to ask in the comments or email me. Thanks for joining me.